Morning.
You're going to bring in prison sentences of up to 10 years for people who lie about their coronavirus forms when they come into the country. What is the likely punishment going to be for decisions that were taken by government ministers that led to the needless deaths of thousands of people?
Well, first of all, I'm just watching that, what you were just playing there from Liverpool, and seeing the impact that this coronavirus is having on everyone. My own father's in a COVID ward right now in hospital and has been for quite some time. Reminds us why it's necessary to make sure that people do adhere to these rules, including not bringing in new variations, new mutations, variants of this virus, which we may not be quite so ready to combat. So I think it's really important that we do have very clear messages sent out that you must not be travelling abroad at the moment. And that, in particular, if you go to these red list countries, you must come back and quarantine. That will include in government secured accommodation. And you can't lie about it on your form. If you do, then there are very severe penalties attached.
Let me first just pick up on what you said about your own father.
So sorry
on
to
a
hear
COVID
that.
ward. Very sorry to hear that. How is he doing?
Well, first of all, I just want to echo what you were saying to the doctors and nurses in that report there, which is the work they do is incredible. I speak to them every single day. Of course, we've not been able to visit my dad for 2 months now, but the work that they do and the way that they look after them and their patients with it all, and also particularly before they were vaccinated as staff, the risks that they put themselves at in working in those kind of conditions. And as was mentioned in the report a couple of times there, now you've got PPE, which is really, really outstanding. We've learned a lot in the last year, and the supply problems that were prevalent at the beginning because we didn't manufacture it in this country have gone away. But what they've been doing for nearly a year now has been extraordinary. And as you said, Piers, it's of course has been worse now, even though numbers are coming down in hospital. And the one good piece of news we had yesterday is my father was transferred from a larger COVID ward to a slightly smaller one. And we said, well, what's going on here? And they said, actually, we're starting to see a reduction in patients. But even now, even with that reduction, it's still higher than it was in the first peak. So we are not out of this yet. We just need to adhere to the lockdown and to the rules to stop more people ending up in those hospitals.
It must be very tough doing your job in a pandemic. I've never made any pretense about that. To do it when your own father is fighting for his life from COVID, that must be very tough for you.
It is very difficult. But, I know that quite often people think that, people in authority or power or in public service, live a somehow different gilded life. I mean, the truth is you live the same life as everyone else, and coronavirus that gets everybody. Got my dad. Actually, it wasn't the reason he went into hospital originally, but unfortunately to pick it up. And, we're all very worried. But the one thing it does do is to remind us all as we're making these decisions. I mean, as I'm in meetings later today, the so-called COVID-O meetings, which is the COVID operational meetings, where we have to weigh up these very difficult dilemmas often about where to prioritize, which rules, policies, laws to pass, how to, add up resources to try to fight this. The fact that you're personally involved in that kind of way does weigh on your mind. And I don't think there's anyone in Britain now. There's nothing special about my situation, sadly. I don't think there's anyone in any family in Britain now who doesn't know.
Well, that is true. Have you been able to talk to your father?
Yeah, he was actually WhatsApp. He's 89, my dad, but he's always been sort of quite techie, and he was able to sort of WhatsApp call us. Unfortunately, the last day or two, we've not been getting contact from him in the same way, and we're obviously speaking to the nurses when we can. But they're very, very pressed, and this is the point, that the hospitals are still under immense pressure. We know that because sometimes it can be difficult to get through. But I do just pay tribute to their extraordinary patience, and not only with the patients themselves, sometimes who can be quite distressed, as my dad's been, but also just the relentless pressure of this and the hours that they've been working the day. The consultants in that
right,
film.
You raise a very good point. Look, first of all, we wish your father all the very best, and we didn't know that before we began the interview, and it shows you just how close this is getting to everybody, frankly, and we wish him a speedy recovery and hope he gets out of hospital soon and back with his family, as we do everybody who's fighting COVID right now.